Welcome back to Big Dan's Airgun Review channel. Today we'll be looking at an air rifle that's set to take the budget sector of the PCP market by storm. The Artemis M11 Mark II. So then, let's move on to features and see what exactly you're getting for your money. Starting at the rear of the rifle, we've got a rather nice figured rubber butt pad here, which is also ventilated, and the cheek piece is also nice and pronounced and should hopefully give the shooter the correct eye alignment and giving the shooter better accuracy and consistency. Well, we'll soon find out about that anyway when we come to the accuracy part of our review, but yeah, from what I can see so far, that's definitely an improvement over the older model. Moving slightly further along, you've also got the checkered pistol grip there, which is, once again, it's still not humongously deep, but it's definitely a massive improvement over the older model once again. We've also got the two-stage adjustable trigger here, which I believe is the same as the standard M11, but feel free to correct me on that if I may be slightly wrong. It's also got the same button-style safety built into the trigger here, which I'll get on a bit more about in a moment. We've also got a bit more checkering up the front here, which I really do. Once again, it's fairly deep, but it's not massively deep. But I love the design of this little piece of checkering here. It's not over the top, but it just looks nice and modern, which I think overall finishes off the overall look of the rifle quite nicely. Moving back to the action, you can also see that the M11, like the Mark I M11, is a bolt action rifle. It's still got the rather lovely chrome looking bolt there. At the moment the rifle's got the single shot tray, which comes standard with the M11, but you also do get the 13 shot self-indexing magazine. We'll move more onto this a bit later on. Now then, this is where things begin to get really interesting. However, if we move back down towards, and imagine we can see we've got X-ray vision and we can look through here somewhere, you'll see that this is the main difference between the Mark II M11 and the Mark I M11, and it's what sets this model rifle apart from pretty much everything else within its budget, say sub £400 mark. It sets it apart from everything in the market at that price point is the fact that the M11 is double regulated. Now the Model 1 M11, the original, I owned the M22, but it was basically the exact same rifle, just the M22. It's the same as this. There's an M22 Mark II as well. Came out with a full barrel shroud, full length barrel shroud. It was a titanium sort of alloy, lovely looking thing. But the difference between this and that is that the Mark I models was regulated, but they got 80 full power shots per fill. Again, nothing wrong with that. 80 is a pretty damn good number, especially for a rifle at this price point. However, the M11 Mark II is double regulated, and what this means is that the shot count goes from 80 all the way up to 200 in 177. That I am incredibly impressed with, especially considering that the rifle is only max SRP for the M11 anyway, I believe is around £360. That is incredibly impressive. But enough of that, let's move on a little bit further. We've still got quite a bit of rifle to see. Another change to the M11 from the Mark II, or the advantage the Mark II has over the Mark I, is not only has the rifle got a brand new, rather sleek looking stock. May not seem massively sleek maybe to those who are used to different rifles that are on the market right now, but trust me, if you've never seen the Mark I M22 or M11, stop this video and go and Google them right now and you'll see I quite like the old beast. I like the stock personally, but I can see why some people may have been put off with it. So not only do we have this rather sleek looking, at least in my eyes, new stock, rather attractive stock, but we've got a little hidden gauge underneath there. That is not actually your air pressure gauge, that is actually the regulator pressure gauge, which is an addition that this rifle has that the Mark I didn't have. So then, another little neat feature there, and in my opinion something that should be on every regulated rifle so you can see exactly what the rifle is doing. Moving further along, I do apologise if you can hear a high-pitched whining sound. That's actually sounds like one of the alarms around one of the farms around here seems to be going off. But moving along to the fun part of the rifle, you can see the air cylinder underneath. It's got their 20 MPa max pressure, but you've also got this brass thread protector, which you can see I've already unscrewed it. It just slides straight off once unscrewed. And why I'm showing you this is because you also get one of these with the M11. You get a silencer included with the rifle. So then, that's overall it for the features of the rifle. Next up, we'll move on to handling and just see what the M11 looks like and feels like when it's put to your shoulder. Overall though, the impressions so far are very, very good. So then, let's move on to handling. So then, handling. What's the M11 like when it's put to your shoulder? Well, I'll tell you the first thing is that if you're after a lightweight rifle, this may not be the one for you. It's not a heavy gun, it's just more, well, I'll put it this way. It's definitely an improvement over the Mark I M11. That definitely had a little bit of weight behind it, maybe a little too much for some shooters, but this is a lot lighter, but at the same time I still couldn't call it a lightweight gun. Although to be fair, we do have a rather monstrous Milbro Clearview 4-16x40 AOEG on top, which is quite a hefty little scope to put on there. But on the plus side, it does shoulder really nice. The stock and cheek piece are definitely doing their job. I can hold this thing absolutely deadly still on target. Ridiculously still, in fact. And overall, it just feels really nice to put into your shoulder and really nice in the leading hand. The checkering, as already mentioned, isn't quite as deep as maybe you'd like it to be, but at the same time, it's an improvement once again over the older model, and Artemis are definitely listening and, well, slightly honing their craft, we'll put it that way. As mentioned earlier, I do like the design on the forestock here, if you can see this part here in the video, and yeah, it just feels really pleasant to the touch. The action, however, is the bit that I'm most impressed with. I don't know if you can see this, but this has to be the smoothest bolt that I've ever used, to the point where when I first had it, had a few of these come in, I thought it was broken, how soft that was. I thought something wasn't engaging right. Even the biggest high-end rifles you can think of, air arms, you name it, there's a little bit of a clunk, there's a mechanical feeling to it. Which I don't mind, I think it's quite satisfying actually, but there's a mechanical feel, like a click when you pull it back, whereas this, oh, it's like butter. It's one more time. That is just beautiful, it really is. But again, moving on, the trigger, again, I think it feels the exact same two-stage unit as what was on the Mark I M11, and again, that's nothing really to complain about. It definitely does the job. This is completely unadjusted at the moment, and it feels completely, pretty much perfect for me. You know, if you've watched my other videos, I like a light trigger, and this is, well, pretty much ideal for me at the moment. I probably, if I owned it, I would tweak it ever so slightly lighter, but the first stage is nice and light, and you do have a little bit of resistance for the second stage before you feel that crisp, and off it goes. Other things I'll mention. Removing the, oh, that bolt's nice. Removing the single shot tray is a piece of cake. It's held in place with a small magnet there, you can probably see at the bottom of the tray, and there's another magnet just inside the action here. Pull the bolt back, that slides straight out, and as you can see, the magazine, that's got the exact same thing. You've got a magnet just in the upper left corner. It's simply a case of lining it up, letting it suck itself in place, and then closing the bolt, and you're ready to go. Things I don't like about handling, again, I like to try and be as honest as possible, and you know I love my safeties if you watch my other reviews. This is one of the most fiddly safeties that I've experienced so far. That's a big tractor, I do apologise about that. This is a working farm still. The button, safety button, is on the trigger, which, it's not terrible, but it's a little bit fiddly, it's a bit of a faff to get to. It is a manual safety. Some guys do prefer that though, to be fair. They think automatic safety is maybe a bit intrusive. But yeah, it's just hard to get to me. It's not very intuitive where it is. It's just fiddly and that's satisfying to use. But again, that's really, in the handling department, all I can really say that's negative. That and the fact that if you're looking for a really lightweight gun to shoulder and such, the M11 may not be for you. But then again, put a lighter scope on there, you might be surprised. But yeah, that's handling out the way. But there's one more thing I do want to get to, and that is this magazine. Because this can catch you out if you're not used to the Artemis mags. And we'll move on to that now so I can show you what I mean. So then, what exactly is so fiddly about the Artemis M11's magazine? Well, to those of you that own the M16, you'll know what I'm going to say here, as the mags are pretty much the exact same. But like few magazines on the market, you simply load the pellet by simply dropping it through the top here. Again, there are other mags do it differently, but most of them are usually pretty simple like that. However, if you're a new time owner of an M11 or an M16, what might catch you out, and what I was talking about earlier, is the fact that if you don't seat the pellet correctly, can you see there's resistance here, and it'll either tear the skirt or jam the mag whilst you're in your shooting session. What you need to do, again, you don't need anything special, either an Allen key, or I've got a nice clean little bit of stick here that I've found. All you need to do is simply poke the pellet down like so, and you won't have any issues whatsoever. Again, it's only a very simple little thing really. It can be a bit of an annoyance if we're used to maybe some of the slightly more slick magazines out there where you simply drop the pellet in and she's absolutely a-okay, but look at me butchering this, for I'm doing this through a GoPro camera. I think I need a new piece of stick. Anyways, you get the you get the point. You're going to need something to poke it through to stop any future jamming or anything like that. No, GoPro, stop recording. GoPro, stop recording. So then, as mentioned, the magazine does deserve its own little separate piece of video, because it does have its own little quirks. I'll put it this way. When loading a pellet, you simply turn the mag and simply drop your pellet straight through, like so. However, if you try and immediately turn the pellet, or turn the mag to load the next pellet in, you can see there's resistance here, and the pellet won't simply slide, and the mag won't slide to let you load the next round in. This is because this needs to be seated a little bit better, just pushed in. We'd say, again, I've just got a little clean piece of stick here, but just pushed in straight down like that. If you don't do this and you simply drop the pellet straight through the top like so, either the mag won't cycle correctly, or when you're shooting, the mag will simply, it'll just, as I said, it won't cycle, it'll jam. And you'll get all sorts, you'll get accuracy issues, and if you're not careful, you can end up double loading the rifle, which absolutely nobody wants to do. But it's only a case of literally getting something and poking them through like that before cycling the mag, and that's it. The mag, so far, I've never had a single issue with them or any mag brought back. But just, it's worth mentioning, bear this in mind if you plan on getting an M11 or an M16 or anything that uses this mag design, as they can jam up quite spectacularly if you don't poke the pellet through. So then, that's that covered, the last little niggle to my knowledge so far anyway. Next up, we'll move on to chronograph results. Unfortunately, I don't have the chronograph at the moment, that's currently on loan. However, I did manage to get a few shots out of this gun straight out of the box, so you need to bear in mind there will be a little bit of wiggle room once the gun's cycled itself in, leaded itself in correctly, but I'll show you the results of the chronograph now. So then, chrono results. What's the M11 doing straight out of the box? Well, the numbers to begin with do look quite low, but there's a bit of a message with this part of the video as well, and that is that you definitely need to get your rifle checked with all pellets when you're testing your rifle. And you'll see the reason why I'm saying this now. I took 13 shots here using the BSA Fury pellets, which I believe are around 8.1 grains, and you can see here the rifle's doing around 9.6 feet-pound straight out the box, 9.4 to 9.6, which is usually you consider that to be fairly low for what's considered a full power rifle. You've got feet per second up there, average 722. However, we'll move along now and we'll go for the Air Arms field pellets here. These are slightly heavier at 8.4 grains, and here we're at 10 feet-pound, and we pretty much get up to touching 10 just up here. Again, the rifle's not run in, so that will probably creep up to say 10.2, 10.3 once it's run in. We've got here standard deviation is only 4.5 feet per second per pellet, and maximum spread is only 15 feet per second. That's pretty damn good. But this is the thing, and this is why I say when you have an Artemis rifle, always check with heavier pellets, because of even SMK themselves, due to the twist rates on these barrels where they're designed for overseas markets, which have higher power levels than what we have here in the UK, they do tend to like a heavier pellet. And here's the new Barracuda match pellets, and as you can see here, I do apologise, that is another tractor, the power jumps immediately up to 11 feet-pounds. You got 10.68 appears to be the lowest here, but second shot was straight up at 11. Again, pretty damn good results with that. And like I say, when the rifles run in, the numbers will creep up a little bit more. You've got here standard deviations only 3.32 feet per second, maximum spread is 10, average feet per second 677. But again, this is why I say, especially if you live in a power restricted country or set of countries like the UK at the moment, please get your rifle out and get it checked with the slightly heavier weight pellets, just in case, just to make sure that it's doing what it should be doing and keeping under that 12 marker, or whatever your mark is, whatever country you're in. But yeah, overall consistency with the M11 seems to be pretty damn good across the board. I'm well chuffed with that, again, especially considering the rifle is pretty much brand new straight out of the box. And that's enough of the, I think we've covered the boring parts of the review that we'll cover just to show the rifle's consistency. Now we're on to the fun bits, and let's see how the M11 does at a 25-yard range, shooting unrested. We'll be using Air Arms 4.52 field pellets, obviously 177, and we'll set the target up now, and we'll see just exactly how well a double regulated 360-pound rifle does at 25 yards, and then if the weather's kind, which it's ever so slightly gusty today around the farm, but if the weather's kind, we'll move out to 40 yards and see what the rifle can do. So then, let's move on. So then, first few shots, Artemis M11 Mark II, 25 yards. As you can see, we've upped the budget slightly at Big Dan's Airguns, and now we've got a plank of wood, slab of wood I should say, behind our original piece of wood here. And there's a very good reason for that. When you're an airgun RFD and also still an enthusiast, that happens. So then, let's crack on. 25 yards, Artemis M11. Let's see what we can do. Absolutely well chuffed with that at 25 yards. Don't think we could ask a whole lot better than that, to be fair, unless we move that group ever so slightly to the right. But again, that's probably more my user error and or shabby zeroing than the rifle's fault. Again, that easily fits under a 5p piece, but enough of that. Let's go 40 yards now. That's our target, and as I just showed you back there, that's where we're going to be sitting all the way there. So let's say 8-shot group, 40 yards. Good luck, Dan. So then, accuracy tests. How did we do? Well, for starters, all shots were done using the 13-shot magazine. Again, I know a lot of guys say, and in the comments you'll be saying, why didn't you use the single shot tray? Well, it's still a fair point, to be fair, I'll agree with you on that, but at the same time, people who might use this for hunting and such, they'll be using the mag and not the single shot tray. So again, I'm using the magazine here. The single shot tray, I'm sure, would clean the groups up probably a little bit more, but this is what it'll do with the mag. Here's our 25-yard group here, and unfortunately, like an idiot, I forgot to bring any coins and such with me to use as grouping size reference. So we're going to use a 177 pellet today. As you can see here, 25 yards, again unrested. This is pretty much, it would fit easily under a 5p piece. You can see the little 177 pellet there, just about fitting in the centre there of the main cluster. That's pretty good. Next, move on to 40 yards. Now this was enlightening because again, I'm a Springer man, sorry, not really a PCP man, but again you can see the group's dropped quite a bit. The main cluster here though, you can see the pellet there for reference. You can still see that's to be fair with you, a pretty damn good group at 40 yards, again considering I'm unrested, and it is quite gusty today. We had a few little flyers, we had one that went way up here, and you can see you got the main group here, and you got a few little pellet holes down here, down below. I actually took a second group because I was sure that I could tidy that up a bit at 40 yards, and the results of it are right here. I also adjusted the zero. I went a couple of tiny little clicks to the right, and I went a few clicks upwards so as I could get it a bit closer to the bull at 40. And here's the main cluster here. Again, 177 pellet fits pretty much perfectly inside of it. We've got a few little low flyers down here. Again, that's probably more my fault than the rifles. And we've also got our high flyer up here who's come back from our second group. Look, he's up there on that one. Again, that could be me. I took the whole groups. I'll be showing you the video for the 40-yard group, the first one, in real time, but the groups took me 9 minutes to do when it come to coming back, reloading the mag, and then sitting down and firing away. So I didn't exactly, the heart rate wasn't perfectly calmed down, but even so, I am pretty well chuffed with what we've got there. I don't think you can really complain about this accuracy here, especially considering that the main reason we've got these misses down here is probably more user error and the wind than anything else. But overall, accuracy wise, 25 yards to 40 yards, I'm pretty well chuffed. So then, let's move on to the final verdict. So what's the final verdict of the Artemis M11? Well, let's start with the pros first. It's a 360 pounds air rifle, or PCP rifle, that comes with a 13-shot multi-shot mag in 177. You've got possibly one of the smoothest actions that I've ever felt in a PCP, and that's comparing it to other PCPs I've shot in the past, Theoben Rapid, BSA Super 10, and the previous Artemis guns. I've got to confess and say this has got them all beat. I know a lot of people won't believe me about that, but you've got to try one for yourself. It really is. I'm not kidding when I say it's like butter. It really is like that to operate. The other positives, the trigger is quite sweet out of the box, but it is a little bit of a pain that you have to take the stock off to adjust the damn thing. Artemis did listen to us when it comes to the M16D, how you adjust the trigger by changing the trigger guard, putting a tiny little screw hole on the bottom there that you can access it. So hopefully they'll watch this video and go, hey, that guy's onto something, and they might change it for this one as well in the future. Accuracy wise, it's pretty much spot on. Thankfully for our comparisons now as to seeing how big these groups really are, God has gifted me with a small stone that is just about the same size as 5p piece, maybe a tiny little bit smaller. So we'll just put it here, and you'll see that it perfectly covers up our 25-yard group. Again, this was taken unrested using the multi-shot mag. I know the guys will be screaming again, like I've said earlier, about I should really do this using the single shot tray, but as I've already said, if you're going out hunting, you're going to be using the multi-shot mag, not the single shot tray. I like to show everything with its warts and all. Trying to be as fair as possible, you see. Then we go to 40 yards, and you can see the group opened up a hell of a lot. Again though, this is still unrested on a semi-gusty day here in Essex at the moment. You can see the main cluster sits under the 5p piece, but we've got three little shots that went quite low, one just to the left, and we had one go yay high. I wasn't too happy with that, so as you know I did the group yet again. Get a little piece of wood out of the way there, and we've got the main cluster once again sitting under a 5p piece, but Big Dan can't quite string it together again, and it's all, we've got these few once again have gone low, and we've got yet another little friend has gone yay high. So, not happy with that, and it's not cheating before you say anything. If I put it in before the video's over, I have taken another group, but this time, because I knew the rifle could do more, I did this sitting down, and, well, not just sitting down, but I did it rested, is what I meant to say. And this one is much better. As you can see, I'm adjusting 0 for each one of these groups that I'm doing. You can see from the second group to the third group, you can see I adjusted it a couple of clicks right and a few clicks upwards, and this one I came up even more, but I didn't really adjust the left and right setting too much. But you can see here that it sits perfectly, almost perfectly anyway, under our 5p coin. I'd say to be fair, we had one little flyer again, because even rested, Big Dan can't put it all together for some reason, but I'll say that I'd say to be fair, we'll say 20p piece, you'll get most of that covered quite easily, and that's me being pretty generous considering, like I said, this little stone is smaller than a 5p piece, I'd say just about. So accuracy wise, it's pretty much top notch. Consistency, you saw the results through the chronograph, 10 shots, we had we had a maximum spread of only 10 feet per second with a standard deviation of less than 5 feet per second, so that's all good there. And for £360 you're getting a shot count of over 200 shots per fill. It doesn't get much better than that. So that's the positives out the way, which is a hell of a lot to go by as well. And the gun's also, I forgot to mention, very nicely balanced despite its weight. But mentioning that, that does lead me into the next point, which is the weight. Again, this is, some may find this a positive. I'd like a heavier gun personally, but a lot of guys may be looking at this thinking the M11 sorry, looks a lot thinner and lighter than the older model. I'll give it a go. Not really. It's a little bit lighter, that's true, but it's still not a light rifle. Again, by all means, if you see one, give it a shoulder and see what you think, but she's definitely not a light gun. It's lighter than something like a Walther Rotex RM8, and it's lighter, I'd say, than a Mark II Theoben Rapid, but then they're sort of getting up there when it comes to weight. I'd say it's maybe slightly heavier than something like an Air Arms S510, something like that. She's not a lightweight, I'll put it that way. She's got a bit of a ghetto booty on her. The other things I'll mention, these aren't really negatives so much, but well, this isn't a negative so much, but again, you do have to take that stock off to adjust the trigger, which is a little bit annoying, I can imagine, in the long run. If you want to make tiny little tweaks, you've got to keep taking the stock off, putting it back on again. SMK, you listen to us when it comes to the M16D, you change the trigger guard so we can get a screwdriver straight up there. Come on guys, do the same thing with this, I beg you. One negative I will mention, however, which it's the same with the M22, and I'm sure it'd be the same with the older M11. This gun was quite pellet fussy, I'll say that here and now. If you do pick up an M11, don't be too disheartened if you put some of the bigger brands you think of, say JSB and such, and HN through it and it doesn't group, because these are naturally, for some reason, quite pellet fussy. I tried everything when I was doing this. You can probably see some of the results if you look down at what I fed it through the chrono. JSB RS was all over the place. I even tried BSA Furies, and even some of the I think they're just called performance pellets. I tried some of them through it, and it did not like any single one of them. Luckily, I remember what my older M22 used to love, and that was the Air Arms Diablo fields in 4.52, and it absolutely, to what I can tell, absolutely loves them, but to my knowledge, we never know, there could even be an even tighter grouping pellet out there than that. So again, go into it bearing in mind that you may have to spend a couple of quid on maybe a sample pack just to see what this gun will like. But other than that, that's really the only main negative that there really is, that and the maybe the weight for some people, but other than that, it's a lovely looking gun. I love although the checkering could be deeper, I love the design on the side, it keeps it looking nice and modern. The silencer, whilst not the best silencer in the world, definitely does its job, and it is free with the kit, so you can't complain. But overall, like I've said already, for a gun that's max SRP I believe is around £360, I don't see how you can go wrong or have many complaints with the Artemis M11. Thanks for watching guys, and if you have any other requests, do leave your comments down below and I will get to them as quickly as I can. Even if it's criticisms, by all means leave them, so as I know how to make the videos better in the future. One thing I will mention, for the guys that are begging me to review the Cossacks, I've got some good news. I should soon have a Cossack in, hopefully within the next few weeks, so I'll crack on, get that done ASAP and see what the gun can do and see what we think of it. So once again, thanks ever so much for watching guys, thanks so much for the support. Again, leave any comments and suggestions down below, we'll get to it ASAP. And thanks for looking, and take care.